order from the recess of executive session. This is the meeting of the Buckeye Local Schools Board of Education. It's Tuesday, October 10th. It is 7:06 p.m. Roll call, please.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. There's a flag above your heads. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. Approval of minutes. Resolved that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the minutes for the special and regular meetings of September 12, 2017. A motion, please. Second?
Second.
Any comments? Questions? Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Following our recommendations that have been identified for approval as part of the consent agenda for this meeting, if a board member wishes to remove any item from this agenda for further discussion prior to taking action, please let either the superintendent or the board president know. Resolved that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the consent agenda of October 10th, 2017 as presented. A motion, please.
So moved.
Second? Second. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Superintendent, special guests?
Thank you. Excited to have our students and parents here this evening. If our administrators could come on up and introduce us to our students of the month. Ms. Hartwell, do you want to lead us off?
Absolutely.
I am very pleased to present Brianna Baker as the primary student of the month, and Mrs. Gandalf, her second grade teacher, had this to say about her. I'm so excited that Brianna is the student of the month for the primary school. Since the first day of school, Brianna has been enthusiastic about learning and is always trying her best. She's a friend to all of her classmates, and other students look to her for guidance. Brianna continuously sets the example in class, playground, or in the hallway. She has received numerous no homework passes for her high dojo marks. And today she even took the teacher's chair for the day. Congratulations and thank you for being a great representative of the primary school. Good job, Brianna.
Hello, I'm Ms. Matt from Buckeye Intermediate, and my student is not here this evening. I'm going to speak on behalf of Claire Bohan. She's a 5th grader and a model student from Mrs. Lundmeyer's class. Claire will always follow directions and she thinks of others often. She offers to help students with anything, and students are quick to accept. Anyone can find a smile on her face. She is kind, respectful, and generous. Claire is an exemplary student, and she is lucky to be in her class, she says. So congratulations to Claire.
Good evening, I'm Mr. Flood, and with me this afternoon, or this evening, I have Penny Prill with me. She is Buckeye Junior High Student of the Month. Each and every single month, we ask our team of teachers to talk about a student, to present a student to us, and luckily for us, we have a great young lady with us this evening. This is what they had to say about her. Penny has a positive attitude. She's hardworking, kind, willing, and always willing to help others. She can be counted on to participate in class and to help her classmates, and always seems excited for school. She's a leader for others to follow and a role model that we like to see at Buckeye Junior High. Away from school, Penny likes to play soccer for Coach Easton's team. She likes to go to church with her family and go out to eat after spending time, of course, with her family. Penny says when she gets a little bit older, she wants to become a professional cook or a professional soccer player. Penny Pro.
Good evening. Adam Snook from high school. I have the privilege of presenting you our 2 students of the month for October. First off is Grace Conrad. Grace is very involved in school and is currently second in her class with a 4.67 GPA. Grace is a senior class officer in student council. Grace is a member of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, a member of National Honor Society, and she's a huddle leader for the past 3 years. She's a member of the Buckeye Girls track team. She's an academic letter winner the past 3 years. She received the West Point Leadership Award. She's involved in children's ministry at church, and we're looking at Kent State next year. Correct? Correct. Our second student of the month is Justin Kennedy. Currently, Justin is in the top 10 of his class with a 4.59 GPA, and he is either taking or has taken 7 AP classes. Impressive. A heavy class level. He is a member of Freshman Mentors and is a team leader in that organization. He has won the Top Scholar Award. He also helps with the Cleveland Browns Adaptive Football League as a volunteer. He's a 3-sport athlete in football, basketball, and in track. He is All-Ohio athlete for track and high jump. He's first team All-County in track for the past 3 years. He participated in concert band as a freshman, and as a sophomore, he was a freshman too. And Justin plans on attending.
Congratulations, students. I do want to add, I saw Justin at the Lorain County Fair. He's a pretty good cornhole toss player. Next up, we have Eagle Scouts. Is Ryan here? You just want to
Okay. Next week. So this is going to be before pictures and after pictures of my project. Can you go back one, please? This is the area between the concrete by these stadium stands and the high jump area. And this is the stone path that I've built, actually part of it. Next. And then next, the section of the path goes from there to the back corner of the fence. Next. And in the left picture, you can see the post on the side. I'm having a sign made for that, a plaque. This is what the area by that corner fence looked like before. It was just grass and mud, and when people would walk through it, it would tear up the grass and ruin people's shoes. Next, please. So we built the path through the fence and around the outside to the trampoline and discus areas. Next, please. This is just another picture of the outside. Next. One more. those were the loads of stone that we brought in, 36 tons of stone. And this is the observation area between the shot put and discus for people to stand in when they're watching the event. You can see Tim Sasalich helping out there. Thank you. Next, please. This is the overhead view of the whole thing. Some quick facts. The total estimated cost at the beginning was $2,700. But due to donations, I only had to raise about $600 of that. Total man hours spent was 251 hours. I put in about 45 hours myself. 30 total people helped me. There's the stone, 36 tons. 150 pieces of rebar, the 2-foot stakes. Some of these scoutmasters who had to pound those in still aren't that happy with me. 450 total feet of lumber treated 4x4s. 360 feet of ground cloth under to block the weeds. So, some of the companies that help, ABC Equipment Rentals donated some of the heavy equipment we needed, like the excavator, sod cutter, LL Clink, supply or help cut the rebar. You need special tools for that. Osborne donated all the stone, which was great help. And I bought the lumber from Stout Lumber. That's it. Thank you.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for that report.
Yes, thank you, Ryan. I'm sure everyone will be appreciative of not getting their feet wet and staying in the mud back there. So very nice. I've been up there a couple times. Very good work. Thank you. Landon.
Well, my name is Landon Howell-Peter. I'm on the starting stages of my Eagle Scout project. As you can look at the pictures that have been replicated, it is going to be a bell for ringing at the football games, every touchdown. It's going to be a 14 foot by 10 foot concrete slab with, of course, the bell and the 3 flagpoles to replace the old flag raising for games. As you can see, there's not much. It's still in starting stages. Planning it to be around the same area as the original flagpole to keep it centralized if possible. And that's just the start of it. As I can tell, there's not many details to begin with because it still needs to have the donations and so on, and it needs to be approved by the council that I am under, and so on.
Is there a story with the bell?
Well, from I can figure, if I've been told correctly, the bell was from the old Litchfield School on the circle, and through the donations of the alumni from the Litchfield School, it was restored a very long time ago, around the 50s, and as we found it, it was sitting outside at the old Litchfield, the newer Litchfield Elementary School, just rusting there. It needs to be restored, of course, again. And we have the plaque. We're hoping to get that restored as well.
I think there are just no words I can use to describe how thankful we are to our Boy Scouts and these Eagle Scout projects. I mean, they just do wonders for the community, so thank you.
I got a question for Ryan, and Landon, listen to the answer. Ryan, how did you get all the people to help you?
The parents came and dragged their children with them.
So, start with parents.
At this time, we're going to take a short break because we like to take some photos of our students of the month. And then if those students have homework or other things to do tonight, we will dismiss them at that time. So let's take a 2-3 minute break while we take some photos.
Will the student of the month please meet me over here?
All right, we will continue with our meeting. At this time, I'd like to have Matt Curlow come forward and address the board and our audience.
Address everybody. I'm Matt Curlow. I'm the Fund Development Chairman for the Buckeye Education Foundation. My brainchild was the yard signs about 3 years ago, driving around and seeing my kids who graduated Buckeye schools. I said, why not give my kids a Student of the Month sign out? And that was my deal, so I'll be here from now on to give them out. What the foundation does is raise money and spend it. And it supports teachers and projects within the school. And that's what I've been on the foundation for over 10 years. Four different superintendents, and each one of them keeps getting better as far as their involvement in supporting us in what we do. We raised about $3,500 our golf outing last month. Our next big fundraiser is November 18th, Saturday. It's the Blue Jean Bash, so wear blue jeans. And come on out and have a nice 4-course dinner with a wine pairing on each course. And we'll be having tons of baskets for you to bid on and raise money for the foundation. Anywhere from it, and we support $500 innovation grants for teachers per class up to projects. I signed a check this summer for $18,000 to help replace parts that we had bought 5 years ago for the robotics. Update all that stuff with all the robotics parts and all the newer, what are they called?
The NXTs.
Yes, the NXTs.
So,
and that's why I've been on it for 10 years, and when they kick me off, I'll leave. What's cool, I think, for me, is I became a dentist. It's my trade. Okay? There was one guy at Brooklyn High School that basically inspired me to be that way. Okay? My brother John is a dentist, took his class. Terry Denkos from Brooklyn High School, a dentist, took his class. So if I can give that same kind of experience to a kid to become an engineer, or a dentist, or a doctor, whatever that is, it's worth all the time I put in. So thank you for your time. Hope to see you on the 18th, and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, Mr. Curlow. Treasurer's report. Resolved that the Buckeye Board of Education accept the Treasurer's report as presented, including all internal budgets, amended certificates, and appropriations to the county auditor as on file in the Treasurer's office. Approval of the 5-year forecast. Resolved that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the 5-year forecast as presented. A copy is attached to the board members' agendas as Appendix A. And the Paid Schools Agreement. Resolved that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the Paid Schools 17-18 annual agreement with the Buckeye Local School District, Appendix B. Motion, please. Second. Roll call.
I'd like to have some discussion and presentation.
Oh, that's right. Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Now, Patty's not nervous at all.
Back and forth, back and forth. So I want to just share with you the 5-year forecast, which is by law something all districts do annually in October and May. We are required to file with the Ohio Department of Education. It's 3 years of past data, which is factual now, and then it includes 5 years of projections. And obviously projections are based on assumptions we know right here tonight. And one already will be changing from data released today from the Ohio Department of Education, which is now switched to the FY18 data, and too bad they just couldn't have had that last week for me so that I would have even more accurate data. So this is as good as it is right now, currently today, and it's a snapshot of where we are today and where I think we're heading for the next 5 years. And as with any projection, the further out we go, the more it's going to diminish in accuracy from the unknown factors that are out there. Also, too, as we all know, there are 3 state biennium budgets in here. That is a challenge in and of itself because they don't, we just got information on current biennium today. So projecting out what the state may or may not do with funding for the next 3 cycles is very, very difficult. And sometimes the differences between forecasted and actual results can be very material and impact the decision making of the district and what's happening. So, and certainly future planning. This forecast for fiscal year 18 is in the first year of the biennium, which was House Bill 49, passed on June 30th, effective July 1st. The biggest changes in this are the state aid for the phase out, and it's a continued phase out of the tangible personal property tax reimbursements. That was a big tax on the items and businesses that went away, and so then the state tried to help us by giving us reimbursements to kind of subsidize that a little, and that's being completely phased out. And I'm sure many of you read in the paper over the summer and are aware that transportation funding is significantly getting cut for many districts, including our own, over the course of this biennium of the next 2 years. So, and by far the most important thing to share with you is this is only 2 of our funds. It's the general fund and the emergency levy fund. It is no other fund in there. So this only is forecasting those operating funds. So it doesn't include athletics, it doesn't include food service, it doesn't include the debt service, it doesn't include student activities, and on and on and on. It is strictly just general emergency levies. And also just for note, because I know it's a popular topic right now, there's no assumptions for Nexus in here. We're going on what we have and what we will generate, not giving any assumptions to that because I don't know what will happen with that. So when you look at our revenue, total revenue projection is 22.1 million. And you're going to see that it is 68% from local sources. So we have to support our school from a local source. So that means our taxpayers are being generous to us in supporting this district. 26% is all we're getting from that state aid. So that's not a significant amount at all. And then the other 6% is just other revenues that we can go into detail more, but just to give you an idea of what the revenue would look like in a chart there. That is our total revenue. Expenses, now most of our expenses, 78% is salary and benefits combined. So we are a service industry, we do not make widgets, we are helping children and doing educational initiatives. So our cost is in personnel and salary and benefits. So that's where you're going to see the most of it in there. Cash balance, where I believe we are now, and where I believe we'll end up, beginning cash balance was 12 million. Ending cash balance, I believe, is going to be 12.7. We have to take out our encumbrances, which are obligations we're going to say we're going to pay for this year, that are credited to this year's budget, but will be paid out after July 1. And ending would be about 12.1. So hopefully we improve our position at the end of this year. That is the goal. Forecasted revenues, I just wanted to show in a graph where we're at. This year, we're going to be pretty equal with expenses and revenues. You're going to see the expenses start creeping up and the revenues start coming down. And the line represents the cash balance, what that does. And how we start to deficit spend, and what does that mean to us, and where does that take us? Which is the normal cycles of levy, and to be expected in any 5-year forecast is, unless there's a big known, such as a Nexus kind of idea, you're going to see this happen. So this looks very traditional of a forecast. So where do I think we're getting revenue from? This is just a quick graph to show you the different sources, but to really go into a little bit more detail there. Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead. To talk more about it. The assessed valuation is the core component of our real estate taxes. That's also the core component of one of the funding of one of the biggest factors of how much funding we get for a state share index. And as we all know, the state funding is difficult, school funding is difficult to understand. But that is the huge driving factor. So that ties into the auditor's office doing triennial updates and reappraisals. Last year was the update for Medina County, so everyone's property was reassessed for valuations. And there's actually a decrease projected for general property taxes because of the update that increased the valuation. And that seems backwards, and the reason that is because we have House Bill 920 a little bit affecting this, but most importantly is the emergency levy. We voted it in at $3.2 million as a dollar levy. So they have to readjust the collection rates or millage rates back down because we were going to start collecting more than was approved. So we have to readjust that back down. So we are getting a decrease in it to get back to where we are. And then every 3 and 6 years this happens. So you'll grow a little bit and then they're going to take you back down to your voted in dollar value. Again, that property tax reimbursement, the tangible personal property tax reimbursement, and the transportation are big. The foundation funding, the projection I used was on FY17 data, because that's all we had until this morning. We got the email that October 1st, the first payment in October, they're flipping us to FY18 data. So I will know more at the end of this month what we will look like again further. So this forecast is extremely fluid because it does change on us quite a bit. And what's happening in the transportation funding is previously we were funded at 50%. Going down to 37.5 for this year, and then down to 25 or your state share index, whichever is greater for us. That's the state share index, which would be 27%. So that's going to be big to us, no doubt. Casino tax funding, that is, we get casino money from the different casinos, and right now last year was $116,195, and that information comes from the Ohio Department of Taxation. I have no reason to believe we're getting more from that. And the law states that they have to pay us from that tax, but it's distributed on a per student basis, and it implies that this is to be given to education outside of your funding, but it's put into this line. So that's why it's in state aid, because it's really not a state aid, but we're asked to account for it here, so that's where it's at. And that's new. Last year was in property tax allocation line, so you're going to see a decrease in property tax allocation line, because we have to now account for this in this line of the forecast. It's always been accounted for in the forecast, just a different line this year. And then open enrollment, that is significant to our district. We continue to attract students to attend our district, so that is a great thing and provides us a lot of funding opportunities. Property tax allocation, the homestead rollback is what this traditionally or historically has always been called. And again, we're going to see this come down just a little bit this next year from the emergency tax levy, from the voted down amount. So we're going to see just a dip in that. And then the casino tax funding, I'm just mentioning again, it used to be accounted for in line 1.050, and now it's in state aid, so it's been readjusted there. The other thing about the property tax reimbursement, or the tangible property tax reimbursement, is not only is it being phased out, but we actually know we're going to be losing $200,000 this year and $200,000 in fiscal year 19. So, and then at that point, we should be completely phased out unless something else changes on that. And then we won't have any reimbursements coming back to us after. And our next one. All other revenues, that's another line, and that was the very, very small. On the pie chart, it was less than 6% exactly. And that's tuition from other community or charter schools through the foundation, any technology fees we collect, any interest, any reimbursements, and any rental fees. And the rental fees was significantly lower. I looked into why, and the vacancy of elementary, when it was the preschool being rented, that brought in quite a bit of rental fees. So, and just another note, the revenue from pay-to-play fees is not in here because athletic funds or 300 funds are not included in this forecast. So I would expect other revenue to stay flatlined unless we have a project or something happens with one of those items. The other side of the equation is expenses. So when you look at that, just a quick chart to show growth in expenses as you would expect over time. And included in the personnel services, which is one of the largest components, it is the largest component. These are the things that are put into these lines, so regular and substitute employee salaries, severance payments, supplemental payments, negotiated incentives, and performance-based incentives. So all of those things come into this line. And there is a 6.3% increase in this for this school year, and the reason for it is it's got reflected the strategic staffing plans to reduce the class sizes and address instructional needs. Also, your salary increases, step increases, educational changes, severance payments, and other things the negotiated agreement dictates. So there is a little bit more growth than the average has been in that to go along with the strategic plan. There are no additional programs reflected after fiscal year 18 until we know more. And this is updated again in May, so by May I'm sure we'll know what type of programming we're looking at doing next year. And this line I'm sure will look a little different yet again in May when we know more about what programs, if any, are coming. The benefit side, that is your retirement is the biggest part of this, STRS and SCRS for the teachers and the classified staff. Medicare, workers' comp, unemployment, and a surcharge is also in this. And then all your medical insurances, the 4 lines we have, medical, dental, vision, and life, all come in here. And in 2017, there was a decrease in this, and the reason being is that there was aggressive pricing to switch from a previous provider to a new provider. So I am not expecting aggressive pricing to come back in our annual renewal because we're already switched. So I don't know, the standard is 10%, so we're going to go with it's probably going to be 10% of an increase in renewal each year, not knowing until we sit down to have those discussions. But our insurances are renewed yearly, so this will always be very variable through the whole entire forecast all the time. Line 3.20, as I mentioned here, it's very fluid. It has premium increases, annual renewals, feasibility premium holidays, which is a lot of things out of our control to forecast. So you're really going on a percentage of historical percents, and also to what Aetna, Medical Mutual, United Healthcare, whomever the provider is also suggesting or looking at. So something to keep in mind of why that one is so fluid. Purchase services, this is professional development, professional service fees, tuition going out of our district, and open enrollment leaving our district. So the reason you have tuition going out is for any kind of resident students that have special education needs that are better met, that we will send them to other students for other services, and we will account for it here. And this is just going to project, I'm projecting 2.75%, which is just under consumer price index, because for purchase services, this one too is hard to exactly project without knowing what we're planning on doing, and things come up, you never know when you're going to have a student placed somewhere else or what might be. So this one's a little unpredictable also. Supplies and materials. I would expect this one to increase a little bit too for electronic subscriptions and a reduction of student fees. And when I say that, I mean there may be more expenses coming out of the general fund if we're not collecting the same amount of fee, but that is still unknown, so we have to look at that, and in May, again, we could adjust this back if need be. And this also consists of bus fuel, which is up to the commodity market, so that's a little bit unknown too. Capital outlay, just as a note, is not put in here. That is in a different fund, the sales tax fund and the permanent improvement fund, so we don't have our capital improvements and expenditures coming out there, so we don't really reflect them in this forecast. Then the advances and transfers, I did put in this forecast a one-time transfer of $700,000 to the permanent improvement fund to allow for continued repair and improvement of the district equipment, facilities, and grounds, and historical transfers to athletic and food services. And those transfers are included futuristically throughout the forecast. The one-time transfer has been discussed in the past, so I've included it in it for this particular forecast, but further discussion can take that out, leave it in, whatever the board dictates to do with that. Lastly, just leaving you with a couple of reminders and important notes and reiterations here. Not included is there are no federal, state, or local grants in here. No permanent improvement, sales tax, student activities, athletics, food service, or bond. So strictly our operating funds of general and emergency funds. And again, this forecast does include the expenditures of the strategic increase in personnel and programming. That was not in previous forecasts before, and obviously our new budget, which was unknown in previous forecasts. The probable increase in supplies and materials due to reduction of pay-to-pay, participate, and school fees. And that's just a projection. We need to look at what really happens throughout the year. And a reduction of tax collections due to the triennial update and the emergency levy of $1 collection. And it does not include any repurposing of Litchfield Elementary, reinstatement of high school transportations, future negotiations, or any kind of potential for all-day kindergarten programming if that were to be something the district looks at. So we did make this, the emergency levy did last through 2018 as promised, and we do start deficit spending in 19. And in May, this will look different again. When more of them. Or sit down and
Thank you for that very complete report. Any comments from board members, questions?
One thing is that the property tax for business, and personal property tax that is being dwindled away. This district used to live on that because of our industrial parks. Some people don't realize we have significant industrial parks down in City Medina, and we also have the Liverpool Industrial Park. And those two used to really fund this district pretty well. When that went away, things started changing. Not good.
Anything else? All right, then roll call.
Just make sure I have the right motion with Mrs. Dawson and Mrs. Ellis. Barco?
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mattson? Anderson? Stahl?
Yes.
Yes. Public participation. The public is invited to speak to any of the agenda items and other topics at this time. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Direct questions will not be answered by the Board of Education members at this time. However, answers will be given at a later date as appropriate. Is there anyone who would like to speak tonight? Yes. You need to state your name.
Hi, my name is Aaron. I don't have an agenda item tonight, but I just want to revisit something that had been talked about in the past by the school board, and that is baseball field renovations or relocation. Wanted to see where we were at with that, if there are anything in place for future plans for things going on here. I know there was some things that didn't come to fruition. Wanted to see what kind of quotes that were given to see if possibly I can help in doing some fundraising or something else of any nature to help us get something moving on it. Baseball fields there on the corner, it's high profile, it's on the state route as well. I don't like seeing the fences falling down and everything else, and I know not one of us do. I know it's one factor. That's why I'm trying to get involved and want to see that rectified, whether we build in the back and renovate the front, or both, in keeping that front field and doing a back field. Because I do know that I've been involved with the youth leagues around here since I was born. And I've been coaching for 18 years, and I also have 2 adult leagues that have been using the fields this past summer. I will have 3 teams myself that are able to use that field this year. So it's very near and dear to my heart, and it's not just kids, but it's adults, coming back and wanting to, be involved with the community and be involved with the school. And I think, having 2 fields for the amount of public that we have nowadays would be a good idea. And when that comes to, if there's a committee that's going to be generated, I would like to be, part of it. Thank you.
We are direction. And it's been a little slow. We had to change our architects midstream, and I'm anticipating having something to bring to the board for them to look at the November board meeting. We feel that we're ready to go for construction in the springtime, even with our late start here. And so our hope is that we'll have construction going on. Won't be able to use the field, of course, next season, but we do anticipate having, at our next board meeting, having something to present to the board. If you can give me your information, I will share that with Mr. Harrington and Mr. Tudor as well.
Anything else tonight? All right, hearing none, we'll go on to the superintendent's informational items.
Okay, we have a couple of presentations this evening. Dr. Collins is going to be enlightening us about our district report card.
Mr. Morgan and I actually decided to present this together. So we're going to go back and forth some here. On this first slide, what I did was find a bunch of quotes. Sorry, the next slide. I found a bunch of quotes about what people are saying about the state report cards. And Mr. Morgan's going to kind of explain what it means to us.
Please draw your attention to the slide. I think you would find it to be quite enlightening that there are different impressions of what the state report card, the benefit, the use. Maybe a couple seconds to look at that. Basically, the way we look at it, it is a holistic rating. It is one assessment piece that we would look at to determine the success and progress of our district, as well as looking at our grade levels or different subject areas that are impacted by those assessments. You know, when you start to look at that report card, you probably look at it through a couple different lenses. We have our parent lens to determine, you know, what is the quality of education my child is receiving. We have the student's lens to see where they match up in regards to where they should be on at their grade level. We have the teachers on identifying how their instruction is matching up with other schools, other teachers across the state. And then also we have our principals. We're looking at it to see what trends they see in areas of need for them to focus on. From the central office superintendent's view, we also look at it from the district goals if we're on track, as well as to help identify what type of financial support we can give and what focus could be best receiving a benefit on the report card.
So we talked about this last year, I think probably the year before, but what we don't do in the district is chase grades. The way the scores are calculated year to year changes. So what I wanted to focus on in this presentation is what do we do then with this data? If we are constantly trying to stay ahead of federal and state legislation, then what is it that the report card means to us? So what I've highlighted here is the process. We start getting preliminary data in July, and at that point, we look for errors, we have discrepancies, we have students who are reported who aren't our students, we have data that is reported that should be there. So we start looking at that, and we do preliminary analysis over the summer of what the data is telling us. We start looking at how did the students do last year. That's what that information gives us in July. We pull these scores, these big reports. I've got some images here in a second, but we pull these big reports from the state that really are not usable. And this year, we have purchased through NeoNet Data Map, which takes all of that information and makes it actually usable for our teachers. So at this point in the summer, once the schedules are finished, teachers can start looking at who are my students this incoming year. Once we finally get the report cards in August, September, we again go through and make sure that the data is correct. We file data appeals as necessary and figure out here if those appeals are accepted by the state or the board. We then verify if our preliminary analysis over the summer was correct. And we start asking these questions around there. So where do we see the successes? What would contribute to those changes? What are the trends over time? Where do we see our struggles? Are these trends? And do they align with our district goals? And do we need to revise what we're So again, starting in July, we start asking ourselves, how did our students do last year? This is a screenshot of the way the data comes to us over the summer. We get 4,000 to 6,000 rows of student data from all subject areas, all tests, with all these symbols and tons of numbers, it's tons of columns, it's this huge spreadsheet. And what I do is I start disaggregating that. So I separate it out by subject areas, by grades. I start looking at what percent of students were proficient, what are the sub-score areas where students were below, advanced, where are students landing. This is also when we start checking, are the students who are listed in here actually our students still. So all of that checking happens here. And like I said, what we get from the state over the summer is that this isn't teacher friendly, it's not user friendly, it's not pretty. So we pull that into data map, which is the next screen. And this makes it look very nice for our teachers. So again, once the teachers' schedules are completed in August now, and this is new to us, so we're just really starting to get used to it, teachers can go into data map and get this information about every class that they have. So if I want to look at period 2 and how my students performed on the English assessment, or how my students performed on the math assessment, this is the information that I can get, which then allows me, before I've even met my students, to start planning appropriately. Who is going to need help with reading info text in my science class? Who is going to need some graphic organizers to help them understand reading literature in my English class? So data map is a great tool for us. Again, in September, this is when we start getting our state report cards. And this is our report card this year.
Yes, this is what it looks like. And so when you first look at that, you see a number of grades. When we see those grades, they do tell a little bit about what or how our students have done, how our district is rated, but we really can't get a real in-depth look without going deeper into the report. If you've ever looked at this online, we have it under the curriculum tab, I believe, under academics. We have the last 3 years report cards listed there. You can really dig down and see exactly, okay, for the achievement side we had a C, but how did that actually look in 3rd grade? How did it look in 5th grade? And those grades all can be different, and they all have to be looked at in its own context. So when we're looking at achievements, how well do our students do on those tests? What does a C mean? In the old days, not the 50s, as we heard about earlier, but I'm talking 2 years ago, the acceptable grade was an A. Everyone wanted and expected to be at an A. The state has changed from 2 years ago to now by looking at different standards as well as different assessments. And they've changed the grade to mean something a little bit different. Not that we still don't want to achieve an A, not that we can't achieve an A, but now they are looking at C as being met expectations. So we as a district have a little bit different view of the report card than we did, say, 2 years ago. Do we like the difference between 2 years and now? Of course not. We would rather see all A's. But it didn't really change a lot of what we're already doing as we progress. Unfortunately, how we're reflected in the public eye has changed, and it's not a positive view, but it's still, we still take the same amount of information from this report card and the data that it provides that we did 2 years ago when we were getting A's. And so when we look at the progress on the right-hand side there, that's basically looking at to see how we have done with our subgroups, how our students in different subgroups have been progressing and improving. When you look at the gap closing, we're also looking there at how well our student populations are doing against their expected performance objectives. The state has, for certain subgroups, they have expectations of how well the students will do. When you don't meet those standards, then you get knocked down on your grade. So really it comes down to, okay, what does all this mean to me, the teacher? Well, one of the ways that we can help to align ourselves is to make sure that we are teaching the state standards, because that's what those assessments are measuring, is the state standards. And then we want to make sure that our assessments are aligned with the state assessments. So if we're teaching the standards and we're aligning our assessments with those standards, we should see a fairly close correlation between what we see on our report card and what I'm seeing in my class.
Oh, one more thing on this screen. I've been doing curriculum now for 7 years with this kind of analysis every summer. And every summer the same thing happens. I've got to pull the state technical documents to figure out how the calculation was changed from the previous year. I have to pull the federal legislation. So this year, I had to pull the state's ESSA submission in order to understand every year what is different about the calculations. It's a precarious situation, really, because when you look at this, you don't want to devalue an A. We don't want to, one year, talk about, how grades are meaningless, because when we get the A's, we want to feel good about those A's. But at the same time, when we see the F's, sometimes those F's are so misleading here. And we're going to talk about that indicators in that F in just a second. If we don't take the time, one of the quotes said something about that these report cards are meaningful if you take the time to peel back what the data means. And when we do that, that helps make more sense of what the F's mean. If we just look at this and take the surface value of what this says to us, it's kind of confusing. So we start with the successes. Where do we see success from previous years? What are we looking at on our report card? Just a couple of areas here. Performance index, more students were scoring at higher levels. So we see some points starting to increase. Indicators met, this is the F that I was just talking about. I was trying to figure out how do we get an F? We improved in 11 of our 24 areas. Well, when you look at the calculation under notes, we went from having 29 indicators in 2016, and then we had those 11th grade OGTs drop off finally, because we're in that final transition year of that. So we dropped to 24 indicators in 2017. At the same time, when we had the 29 indicators, which are all the different assessments, this is third grade language arts and math, fourth grade language arts and math, social studies, science, it's all of those tests. So in 2016, the goal that the state set for those ranged anywhere from 65% proficient to 82% proficient, with an average of 72.5 being the goal. This year, they were all raised to 80%. So even if you increased from 62% of your kids being proficient to 79% of your kids being proficient, that's huge. That's a monumental task to have on your report card, and yet it still looks like we didn't improve because the indicator wasn't met. We didn't hit the new 80. A couple more areas. K3 literacy consistently looks like a C every year. C. But when you look at the percent of kids who are proficient on that test, we increased from 77.4 to 82.2, and we are tied with Highland for that in the county, with the rest of the schools in the county down in the 70s, down in the lower 70s. So that's huge. Gifted, yes, we remained a C, but over the last 3 years, we've seen the points increasing. So the population of gifted kids is increasing, and at the same time that the population size is increasing, our kids are scoring consistently higher each year. And finally, graduation rate went from a B to an A. Big accomplishment for us. So, again, the next question that we ask are, okay, so these were all successes. Is this a one-year thing, or is this a trend over time? Are we starting to see where things are improving in our programs? This is the first time, I said this last year, that we did not have apples to apples data. We have changing tests, changing formats. This is the first time we have 2 years of consistent data types. So we had the same testing company and we did it all online. And it's not reflected in the report card, but in almost every single area that is reported, all those calculations, we improved in every area. There are 2 areas which I'm going to discuss that we did not. And they're subgroup areas. So they're like this big compared to the overall picture. Again, we improved on 11 tested areas, gifted showing steady improvement over time in our AP participation rate and our scores, and we had significant dual enrollment increases. And we also asked, where do we see our struggles? So we don't just assume that an F is an area of struggle. Again, that F on the indicators, I'm not assuming that's a struggle because we improved in so many areas. That to me says that we're doing something right. What we see here is in our progress and our value added, those 2 areas remain a D and an F. However, again, when you dig into them, we see that that is 3 years worth of data being counted into that 14-15 to 15-16, when we switched from PARC to AIR, and our language arts scores dropped 15 to 30% in line with the rest of the state, we are still compensating for that dip in those scores. A lot of other districts who went from online to online those 2 years took the dip the previous year in 14-15. So we took the dip in 15-16, and we're still paying for that. We're going to take a little bit longer, at least an extra year, to catch up on our value added because of that 1 year of data. Gap closing, so we see struggles in math, in specific student populations, including students with disabilities, and in our AMOs. Again, we see struggles in math with students with disabilities and our multiracial population.
One of the things with that, Vicki, go back to that one. For the AMO, the annual measurable objectives, one of the things we did add this year was a subgroup. One of the ways you are scoring to benefit your district score is to compare that subgroup to growth from the prior year. But when you add a new subgroup and you have no comparison in the system to compare to, instead of getting 100 points, we got 0. And so that calculation hurts us when we did really nothing wrong. Some of those, just like you talked about with the 3-year rolling average there, it does hurt depending on how things are set up. We would have actually had a grade higher had we not had that subgroup, or if they would have counted us as meeting or improving from the previous year, we would have received a higher grade than that. So some of those things, we're not sitting here going, it's not fair, it's not fair. We're saying, what does that mean, and what does it mean to us? And that's what we have to focus on.
And that's a really interesting measure because that's one that the state, value added is one the state plays with a lot, and they weight what they're going to weight in the calculation. But in the annual medical objective, what they play with is the sample size. So currently, in order to have a subgroup population, you have to have 30 kids who are counted in that subgroup. So there are subgroup areas that at the building level, we may have 7 kids, 8 kids at the intermediate, 9 kids. So we never hit that subgroup population at the building level. And then at the district level, we suddenly have this subgroup population that isn't reported anywhere else. That's one of the situations that's happening with those 2 subgroups that I'm listing up there. Additionally, like I said at the beginning, I mean, looking at the ESSA submission right now, they're changing the subgroup population, but they're also changing what tests are counted in here. So there's potential just, and this is one of the things I'm showing you in the packet, the data packet that the board received. There's potential that this past year we may not have had a subgroup population in students with disabilities, specifically at our high school, for example. We already are taking a 0 if the ESSA submission goes through, simply because of the calculation change. We're going to hit 0 on that next year, which is going to keep us at a D at the high school level in annual measurable objectives.
So this slide just addresses our DLT. Our DLT is our district leadership team, and it's comprised of administrators and teachers from K-12. And what we are looking at on there is to determine, based on the data, as well as the assessment information they have on an ongoing basis of what they're seeing, some trends there. Then we look and we see, okay, what are our goals? And you see we have 2 goals listed there for the DLT. What is continuum of services? Basically, it means that each student is receiving exactly what they need in order to be successful. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of time. It's a lot of attention to those students. The second goal is improving our instruction with high quality feedback, and that's basically is the feedback I'm giving, is it benefiting the student? Is the feedback, if I say to you, do you guys have any questions and no one says anything, was that really benefiting your learning? I just lectured to you, was that really beneficial? Or would my feedback be better served if I said, what does that mean to you? Or how does this affect what we're talking about moving forward, how you're processing that information? Those are all key components to how we as a district can focus our instruction on a daily basis that we believe will result in us seeing improvement in our classrooms as well as on those state assessments, which then will result in us having better scores in the report card. On the side for the buildings we're doing, we have co-teaching and cluster grouping. The co-teaching is just what it says. There's 2 teachers in the classroom. They're both delivering instruction equally. There's some different styles that they can use depending on the situation that they're dealing with. And that's to allow our students that are with disabilities to have more support in the classroom and not be sent off in their own classroom, but they're in the mainstream curriculum, which gives them a better exposure to our curriculum. Cluster grouping is what we use for our gifted students, and that again is in the classroom, but we're also supplementing the instruction that they're receiving. Our max teaching strategies are high yield strategies that engage our students. The data map was already discussed in regards to how we identify the different interventions for our students. And then we also are doing a book study on coaching, which allows us to improve our skills on working with each other and working with our teachers to support them in getting the results that we all desire for our students.
So from all of this, our major takeaway from doing the data analysis again and going through having the conversations is I believe that we're still confident in the work of our DLT. And if we can continue to implement our initiatives the way we have been, we do believe our progress will continue. I can't reiterate it enough. It doesn't show on the report card. You don't see all of the areas of improvement. You don't see that everything is increasing. You just see those letter grades. They just don't tell the whole story.
And I would say too, we don't want to just make a snap decision. We see that report card. We see, oh, look what Buckeye is doing again, or wow, look, they didn't make the improvements there. I hope that you took from the presentation how much work goes into the entire plan of how we're focusing our instruction at each level, each classroom, on a daily basis. And we appreciate all the hard work from what we do with curriculum all the way to the teachers in the classroom. It's a hard job, but we're seeing a lot of benefits from it as you saw in our presentation.
Any questions? I know the one packet that's an ugly data packet, but if any of you want to talk about that separately, we can talk about that another time.
So the changes for the top organization. Do you see large changes in what their plans are? Are they giving you any input for the next couple of years?
The most input we have right now is if people have taken the time to read the essay submission, which I did, but it hasn't been approved yet. So even, some of those calculations that I was talking about that are in your packets are assuming that the federal government approves the submission as it has been proposed. There are a lot of things up in the air. This is the year. If we thought that the year of flux was when we first went to online assessments, this is a year of flux, especially for our 2018 graduates, because they're the first group of students to have to go through this process of new standards and new tests, and a lot is set up against them right now, just getting them to get their diplomas. And that's all legislative mumbo jumbo argument going on in Congress. That's where those things sit.
They're almost like guinea pigs, unfortunately.
Let's see how many might get a diploma if we do it this way. And we're doing the best that we can with the information that we have. And I firmly believe at the end of the day, our conversations focus on, given the information we have today, not tomorrow, not 4 months from now, are we doing what's best for all of these kids? So really staying focused on that. Thank you.
No applause?
Well, I promised to get you out by 9. I was going to go ahead and just list out all the things that excite me about being here at Buckeye, but you know what? I think I'll just do one instead. And when Mrs. Morgan introduced the idea of having an administrator bring to the board meeting something that we see happening inside of our building, it happened at an ironic time, because I had just walked through Mr. Bendel's biomed class, I believe a day or two before, and I was super impressed and super excited with what I saw, and I wanted to have you guys to have that opportunity to see what I saw, and for everybody else here tonight to see what I saw, and to see why I was so excited. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bendel, our biomed teacher. Thank you.
thank you for having me here tonight to present Biomed to you. It's a wonderful program, and it is a Project Lead the Way program. So a little bit about Project Lead the Way. It's backed by over 100 colleges and universities. So it's not just a program that is curriculum-based by fellow teachers. It is a curriculum-based that is backed by universities. So a lot of these colleges and universities put together this curriculum. They send that out to get trained teachers in, and then we take this back and we implement it into our classroom. On the day that class starts, our students walk into a crime scene or a potential crime scene. Their job is to comb through the evidence that is at the scene and just become immersed in the mysterious death of Anna Garcia. That is our fictional character. From day one in class to the end of the school year, we work and try to figure out exactly what happened with Anna, why she met her demise, and we look at a lot of different medical reasons along the way. Let's go ahead. Biomedical science is not just doctors, it's not just surgeons. These are also your EMTs, your 911 operators, a lot of people that are behind the scenes. Biomedical science involves a host of career pathways that kind of all come together, and hopefully by the end of the year, our students are going to get to learn a lot about all of these pathways and hopefully make an informed decision on their future as they move forward into college. We look at, perhaps in the first unit, we start processing our crime scene. We look at fingerprint evidence. We look at DNA profiling. We take a small amount of DNA, we amplify that DNA and use a process called gel electrophoresis to create a DNA fingerprint of all the persons of interest that are at this scene. Whether there's anything bad that happened at the scene or whether it's just a simple accident, we still look at all the persons of interest. So then we move from Unit 1 to Unit 2, and then we start looking more at the doctoral side. So we look at perhaps the nurses and the doctors and the people that are our future, start looking at diabetes. Our fictional character had a host of issues, diabetes being one of those. We look at type 1 versus type 2 diabetes. The students learn to diagnose and treat those diseases. We look at the cause from the pancreas to the insulin and how that insulin is used to lower blood sugar in our body. So it is a very immersive program. The students get a lot out of it and they put a lot into it. We also look at sickle cell disease, which is another affliction of our patient, and we look at the genetics behind that. What causes it? The protein synthesis that goes into the cause of sickle cell, and it is a genetic disease. So we look at past generations and try to nail down exactly where that came from. We also look at heart disease. So our person is also someone that suffered from heart disease. We look at the heart structure and function. We'll dissect a heart, a pig heart this year as we go through this. We look at the good and the bad cholesterol, LDL and HDL, atherosclerosis, which is the hardening of the arteries. And then we also look at infections. And we look at bacterial versus viral infections. We look at what the Center of Disease Control does, how they get information out to the public. So there's a lot of different career pathways that are involved in that as well. We also have post-mortem. So this kind of finishes off our year. We look at some body functions. We look at autopsies. We look at the autopsy of Anna Garcia. And then we kind of put together all of that information that we've learned throughout the year. And then we solve the case of Anna Garcia. So this starts at the beginning of the year from day one. We start looking at evidence. We start researching past problems that Anna has had, whether it's diabetes or whether it's atherosclerosis. And then we put all that together. We come up with a reasonable cause and solves the case, usually on or about that last day of school. One last part that is particularly important to this class is that the students do career journals. And they start on day one, and we start looking at different pathways that they could possibly take throughout their high school, into college careers, and possibly into their careers of their future. They research over 30 different career pathways in biomedical science. Again, not just doctors and surgeons and things like that and nurses, but we look at morgue assistants. We look at 911 operators, EMTs, crime scene investigators. So there's a lot of different pathways that students get to research. It is self-directed research. They have all of these pathways that they get to research. The only restriction I have on them is they cannot use money as a motive for possibly accepting or rejecting this feature. So they really take it serious. So far, the career journals that I've been reading are just awesome. It's a great class. The students are awesome. They're really into it. So, yeah, it's great. Thank you. That is biomed.
Do we have one section of that class?
We do. We have a year-long section.
And how many students are enrolled?
There's about 47, 48, somewhere in that.
Very interesting.
Mr. Knoll.
That's a tough act to follow, right? I don't have a whole lot. In transportation, we had the start of a pretty good year. First 2 months of school, transportation went very well. Most of you know that we implemented high school busing. And with the help of high school and junior high with Dan Flood, the timing and the transition of dropping students off at the junior high, having them walk up. The first couple of days, maybe a week, was a timing issue with the bells ringing, all that was new. Both Gabe and Adam and Dan worked with transportation. We got everything leveled out, and after about 6 or 7 days, the students were coming in, they were getting to the school, the bell was ringing in the afternoon. It went very well. I think that busing high school, for the most part, bringing it back after, I can tell you, I drove it the last time, 9 years, maybe, something like that. It went very well at the beginning. Just a couple of quick figures. We had about 146 parents call wanting to bus their high school. And the way you implemented it was, if there was a junior high bus that had an open seat, we would get that student on that bus as a first come, first served basis. With that being said, junior high had priority over high school, so if the bus was full, if we had 9 seats, 13 seats, 27 seats, that's how many high school students we could put on there. But we had to keep in mind that junior high came first, okay? So with that being said, we registered to ride the bus 105 students out of that roughly 146. We probably would have had more calls if the timing was a little different. Parents were kind of surprised that their high school student was going to have to get on the bus at 6:10 in the morning. And I told them I've been there an hour already. I don't see the big deal. No, they couldn't fathom riding that bus for an hour and 10 or 15 minutes. Now, I think the students that are riding, the parents really needed it, and we've helped them a lot in that. I've taken account over the last 2 weeks. We're at 41 high school students riding the 8 buses that I have come in the morning. There's 41 students riding right now, which is about 39%. In the afternoon, there's 36 students riding, which is about 34%. I kind of feel that ridership's going to go up once some of the athletic events, athletic sports, some phase out, students are going to be riding. We're starting to get calls now. I'm really not sure how much longer volleyball is going to be going, things like that. Then we're going to get into wrestling, that type of thing. So some parents are calling now, questioning, you know, is my student still going to be on, or they're not going to be riding anymore, things like that. So I think the ridership will go up a little bit after some of the sports phase out. That's about all I got. Bus wash is still going good. We've been operating, washing everything. So I want to thank you again for letting us put that in, and I think that's going to help a lot on our new buses, things like that. Any other questions for transportation or?
Roger, you said you honored 105 requests.
Yes,
that
that filled.
Currently, you only have 41 kids riding, and those people dropped out because of the length of the bus ride.
A lot of them did, yes. Yeah, they didn't. And then I think some of them, I find it kind of amusing. I had, in fact, one of my drivers did the same thing. She said that she registered her high school student just to be able to make sure that she was entitled to a seat on that bus at that time. But I instructed the drivers to keep track of just what high school students were actually riding, because they wanted to make sure they had a seat on the bus come November, you know. So there are seats open on some of those buses, but all the high school students aren't riding. I you know, maybe if we implemented high school busing and tweak that that the way we're picking them up or something like that, maybe the ridership would go up a little more. I don't know. But unfortunately, my junior high buses to get to the school at 7:15, 7:20, and with 72 square miles, we've got to leave early. Somebody's first, somebody's last, you know. So I think the timing is the parents are. But I have had calls, they don't like the timing. I've had calls that says, thank you so much, I needed it. It's a godsend that my kid can get, the children can get to school. So on this hand, it hurt a little bit, on this hand, it helped a lot. So I think, you know, and you got to remember too that it's been 9 or 10 years since you've done it. People are out of that habit of knowing that high school busing is available. So you've got to get them back into that a little bit. Okay, thank you.
The update on the strategic plan, I am intending to give that final proposal to you at the November 21st board meeting. Item C is the OSBA conference, the capital conference is November 12th to the 14th. And item D is sort of related to that. Our next board meeting is for November, is November 21st, and that's actually the third week instead of the second week because we have a capital conference conflicted with that typical board meeting. Any questions on the informational items? Shall I continue?
Yes.
Superintendent's recommendations. A, memorandum of understanding with Ohio Guidestone. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve a memorandum of understanding with Ohio Guidestone concerning provision of behavioral health services to Buckeye Local School students. Amendment C. Item B, memorandum of understanding with Buckeye Local Education Association. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve a memorandum of understanding with the BLEA to adopt the designated student growth measure and staff evaluations for the 2017-18 school year, Appendix B. Item C, agreement with ESC of Cuyahoga County. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve a contract for admission of 2 visually impaired Buckeye students with the Educational Service Center of Cuyahoga County for the 2017-18 school year. The approved contract will provide 10 hours of services, Appendix E. Item D, approval of addendum. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve the contract addendum to the agreement for admission of a specific tuition student to Evolve Academy in the United States School District for 2017-18 school year. Item E, approval of agreement. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve the agreement between the Educational Funding Group and the Buckeye Local School District for the E-rate funding year of July 1st, 2018 and June 30th, 2019, Appendix G. Item F, approval of high school course of study. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve the high school class of AP English Language and Composition as submitted by Dr. Christina Collins, Appendix H. Item G, 2018-19 Buckeye School Calendar. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve the 2018-19 school calendar for dates of attendance only, Appendix I. Item H, recognition of booster support organizations. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve the request from the following organizations to be recognized as a booster support organization which support the curricular and extracurricular endeavors of our students for 2017 school year, Buckeye PTO and Buckeye Band Boosters.
I'd like to have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendations.
So moved.
Second? Any questions, comments, questions?
On the school calendar, I know it's for the dates of attendance only. But what happens if we have changes in how we do professional development and things of that nature from the backside of the calendar? How's that going to translate to the front side for our students?
The only thing that would be different would be instead of, if we had our late arrivals would just be 2 hours later start on that same day that we were approving tonight. It should not change the days that school is in session.
Roll call?
Stahl?
Yes.
Zeller?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Yes.
New business?
Item A, a second reading of the following policy, resolve the Buckeye Board of Education, consider the policy listed below as presented in Appendix J. Policy 2464, gifted education and identification.
Motion, please. Second?
Second.
Any questions about the policy? Roll call?
Zeller?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Stahl?
Yes.
Yes.
Personnel, item A, certified personnel, resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve the following personnel items as presented. Number 1, contract changes, resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve the following contract changes for salary purposes for additional educational credits for the following employees effective October 2nd, 2017. Tammy Potter, Masters to Masters plus 15. Joseph Serio, Masters to Masters plus 15. Emily Goodwin, Masters to Masters plus 15. Sylvia Simak, Masters to Masters plus 15. Michelle Axe, Masters plus 15 to Masters plus 30. And Raylene Walker, Masters to Masters plus 15. Item 2, certified substitutes. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education for the list of certified substitute tutors recommended by the Medina County Schools ESC to work on an as-needed basis for the 2017-18 school year as Appendix K. Item B, classified personnel. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve the following personnel items as presented. Number 1, rescinding of non-renewal contract. Resolve that the Buckeye Board of Education rescind the non-renewal of Kelly Leakin and grant a continuing contract effective 9/14/17. Ms. Leakin will be paid at step 2 of the negotiated agreement. Item 2, continuing contract. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve continuing contracts for the following employees. Kelly Moore, intermediate secretary at 10/6/17, step 5. And Cheryl Bartko, primary secretary at 10/16/17 at step 5. Item 3, employment. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve to hire Joyce Savage, AM bus aide for Buckeye Local School. Effective September 20th, 2017, Ms. Savage will work 1 hour per day, Monday through Friday. She will receive a 45-day probationary contract and will be paid at step 10 for the negotiated agreement. Item 4, employment. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve to revise the effective hire date of Rhonda Bartos, cook for Buckeye Junior High School from September 13th, 2017 to October 2nd, 2017. Ms. Bartos will work 3 hours per day. She will receive a 1-year probationary contract and will be paid at step 1 for the negotiated agreement. Item 5, rescinding of contract. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education rescind the 4.5-hour high school cook contract approved in 5/23/17 to Mickey Craig and award the position to Eileen Maley effective 9/11/17. Ms. Maley will receive a 45-day probationary contract and will be paid at step 10 for the negotiated agreement. Item 6, resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve to hire Mickey Craig, cook at Buckeye High School effective September 11th, 2017. Ms. Craig will work 3.5 hours per day. She will receive a 45-day probationary contract and will be paid at step 3 for the negotiated agreement. Item 7, employment. Resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve to hire Christina Nash, bus driver for the Buckeye Schools mid-kindergarten pickup route. Ms. Nash will work 1 hour per day. She will receive a 45-day probationary contract and will be paid at step 5 for the negotiated agreement. Item 8, Volunteer change of assignment, resolved the Buckeye Board of Education approved to hire Aaron Gabeline, a bus driver for the Buckeye School's mid-kindergarten drop-off route. Mr. Gabeline will work 1 hour, 5 minutes per day. He will receive a 45-day probationary contract and will be paid at step 2 for the negotiated agreement. Item 9, maternity leave of absence, resolved the Buckeye Board of Education accept the medical leave of absence for Alicia Shank, Treasurer's Assistant Payroll, effective approximately November 29th, 2017. Ms. Shank's plans to return to her position approximately January 9th, 2018. Item C, classified substitutes, resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve the following classified substitutes to work on an as-needed basis for 2017-18 school year as presented. Item D, supplemental contract approval, resolve the Buckeye Board of Education approve the following supplemental contracts, pending certifications, as well as resignations effective on the 2017-18 school year as listed.
Motion to approve these. Motion. Second. Any questions on any of these personal items? Roll call. Gardner.
Yes.
Self. Yes.
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 Item 15, grants, resolving the Buckeye Board of Education accept and recognize the following grants to Buckeye local schools as presented. A, Goodyear Rube Goldberg Machine Challenge, $1,000.
Motion, please. Second. Second. Any comment or information? Roll call. Berkeley?
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis? Yes. Yes. All right, our next item is board comments.
I thank you all for coming. Thank you for what you do every day. The report card, we know it's a work in progress, and we appreciate the time that both Mr. Morgan and Dr. Collins took to present that presentation. Your class sounds super exciting. I'm sure the enrollment's going to go way up, and I appreciate everything that you do with that too. In case you didn't know, in case you haven't been around Buckeye, the band did make state. They were fantastic. They got superior rating, 1-4. They were actually bumped up into the A class, which is a lot bigger schools. They beat the A class, and they got 4 trophies. We will be going to Brunswick the 22nd, I believe. It's next Saturday, and then they are hoping to do their state competition at Brunswick also. And I want to thank bus drivers. The bus drivers work long hours, and they drive our band around very late at night, and then also our football team, our fantastic football team. And lastly, I wanted to wish John Staub happy birthday.
Ditto on the band and the bus drivers. It's actually a good competition. Last week I dropped John off at 6 early in the morning so we could start polishing his shoes, and I picked him up at 11:45 at night. So all the kids and all the bus drivers, it was a long day, and they've done a great job. I've been at 6 rate camp the past 2 days, and I'm going back tonight, and again, it's my third time. It is awesome. And got several kids that eat worms. I've seen it. I have not this year, and I'm not going to. But they're having a great time there, and everyone's doing well. The Education Foundation, I mean, they do a fantastic job. And asked me this for how many years. I remember that first wine tasting. It was great. And they do so much for the school. We really appreciate what they do. And the presentations, just fabulous. So thank you so much. I really know more about Anna Garcia. And figured I did. And I'm excited about that. Thanks a lot. You guys have a great job. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you all for coming. And love to see the rest of the seats filled for those who might be watching on the cable channel. But things are going very well at Buckeye right now, I think.
Thank you. I'd just like to add that even though it makes our meetings a little longer, it is really important that we hear the presentations from the groups that have presented tonight so that we know more about what is happening in our district. I too want to know if it's natural causes. And I just wish that I could join your class. It sounds very exciting. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Motion. Second. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, everyone.